We are talking to Dell. Sorry, the way the notes were here, I got confused. Dell, how you doing?
Hi, I'm pretty all right today. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm trucking along through this smoky Denver existence. What did you want to talk about?
Well, so I've been thinking a lot about some interesting things, I think. I'm sorry, I get nervous on phone calls.
No worries.
So the way I see gods is like in a polytheistic sense. More, I don't look at things the same way as other people. What I see is that there could be like organisms similar to how religions evolve that are informational and not like biological, and that they can I'm sorry.
No worries.
Okay.
You're doing fine. Let me reassure you first and tell you that there are lots of people who have a polytheistic sense of God and gods. I do not. I do not believe in polytheism. I don't believe in paganism, though I have a lot of polytheistic and pagan friends. Apparently, this is something that I'm glad you called in because it's something that I kind of needed to address anyway. Because people seem to think that like I care the most about how people treat other people, but when it comes to theistic claims, I believe pretty much all of them equally. That is to say, not at all. So with polytheism and with paganism, I feel very similar about those as I do something like Christianity, though because I don't have contempt toward Christianity, but I do have contempt toward the way some people use Christianity, and the same thing with paganism. There's an abundance of neo-Nazi pagans too, and so. But I'm not assuming that that's you or anything. When it comes to any of these religions, the whole thing is I've been where you are, where and with me it usually took drugs. I don't know what your life is like, but where you're just sitting back in bed and you're thinking about things and you're like, what if blah 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 blah. Simulation theory is one of the more fun ones to just go and think about. And it's not even theory; it's a hypothesis where you're just like the concept of if this is all just a simulation, would we even know? Would things like blah 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 blah. All that stuff's a lot of fun to think about. And it's fun to entertain, and in the case of simulation, you can even say, well, it's still that's consistent with the natural order of things. Whatever else, they're a lot of fun. But until I have a good reason to believe something, regardless of how exceptional the idea is or how cool the idea is, where you're like, oh man, wouldn't it be awesome if it was blah 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 blah? I'm not gonna believe. Sorry, go ahead.
I understand. I'm not asserting that there are. I'm not trying to say that. I'm saying that I think it's possible that whether there are or not currently gods, that they could theoretically evolve from things. Well, see how like humans evolved to be conscious beings. Through biological cells, that I think it's possible that either in the past or maybe in the future that something that we could call gods could evolve from things that are mimetic or informational.
So,
and I kind of wanted to.
I get what you're saying about that. You believe it's a possibility. There's a tremendous number of things that one could say is a possibility. I don't know if the details of your hypothesis about these informationally evolved gods Maybe there are details of it that are actually debunkable. But if we're just existing in a space of like, I think it could be possible, again, something being possible is different from I'm living my life either believing it's true or living my life as though it is true. Because if we're just going to list things that are possible, then it's, I mean.
Well, I'm not trying to assert or say anything about, I just wanted to discuss, you know, like the, I don't know, the implications, I guess, of not really, I wanted to talk about like what that might look like or something.
So when we're talking to theists and such, we want to talk about current beliefs they have, and I'm not trying to like shoo you away or anything, but I do want to get into some of the meteor stuff that are like more specific claims, because right now it kind of sounds like, just as a metaphor, this isn't meant to be condescending or insulting, but it kind of sounds like you're saying something along the lines of like, hey, well, we've seen a process of biological evolution turn some very simple form of life into a very complex form of life like humans. So I just think that it's possible that now, instead of information, let's just go with something like that a rock could one day, through a natural evolution process, become a fully fledged sword, that it could naturally get there, because you're just saying that maybe there was something and eventually it'll become more advanced. Sounds extremely unlikely to me. We don't have a reason to believe that there is any kind of evolution system other than the ones that we have identified, and we shouldn't start believing. So as far as like, man, the kind of discussion that it sounds like you're wanting to have, I feel like we'd be here all night and I'd just be telling you stories about the things that I came up with on mushrooms. You know what I mean? Like, it says though here you are a theist. Which branch of theism do you adhere to?
Not anything that's. I guess I have my own brand, I would say.
Okay. And it's something that you believe is true, or you are. Go ahead. Yeah.
It's not really something that I believe is like true. Like it's like physically. It's more of I believe that we are heading in a certain direction, or I can see things moving towards something.
And what is the something you're seeing us move toward?
I suppose I would say it would be like conscious beings that can replicate and move between minds through communication.
Is that what humans are turning into, or is that already in existence?
Well, I would say that the evolution is already in existence. That it's how our thoughts and beliefs evolve. They're like on top of like how you would see religions evolving as organisms dependent on humans. Well, as an example, not the only kind of thing, but
I don't think I'm following at all. So
okay.
So you believe we are naturally evolving some sort of ability to consciously talk to each other through thoughts? Is that what you're describing? Or are you saying once we die, we're heading toward death where our consciousness will survive? What is this consciousness thing you're talking about?
Not human consciousness. A consciousness of a different species that are dependent on human minds to exist.
So are you proposing that basically we're making religions true by believing in them? Almost like are you suggesting that like enough people believing in the God of Mormonism is creating an entity to fill that spot?
I'm saying that, like, say if you had enough people believing in, like, not any God, but like a God that would be possible in this, I suppose, biological format, it could form, like, between humans what would be like the equivalent of neurons, and it itself, independent of the humans, would be able to think.
Okay. What leads you to believe that this is something possible, let alone something you should believe in?
Well, I've looked at I've looked into some things about. Yeah.
No. Go ahead.
I've looked into some things about how humans behave in groups and how different processes emerge from those behaviors, and I have made some predictions about how you can, like, visualize humans as almost like quantum particles or something like that you can add up together to form something that can replicate and evolve over time.
All right, so Dell, I'm trying my best to not sound at all condescending, but as far as we can tell, the only way for humans to replicate as groups of people, you're going to be able to pair off certain individuals. They can have sex and they can recreate that way. This concept of getting enough people together and they're going to be able to create a real thing with physical properties, that's been something that's been happening for thousands of years, and it's only been growing in size. Even right now, as we see, like, religion, there being more religious nuns than any other time in history, but the fact is there's still more religion in the world than any other time in history if you just go by sheer quantity, and we're not seeing the emergence of any of these things. So you're talking about a process of replication, but in this case first a creation of something brand new that is then going to go through an evolution stage that's totally independent of human evolution, and it's going to evolve beyond. And at the end of the day, I don't necessarily have a problem that you think these things, that you believe in these things, because they're not any more absurd than any other of the God stories, than people who believe in Jesus, than people who believe in gods that are controlling the weather, or any other thing that has a completely defiant of natural explanation. I'm not bothered that you believe these things. You haven't yet told me a good reason why you should believe these things. Because it sounds like so far you're just saying, I've thought about it, and this seems really, like, when I think about how people gather together, and this question's going to come off as really, really condescending, and I promise I don't mean it that way. But because this is something I ask myself a lot. Just because you thought about it, does that matter? What are your qualifications? What is it what is it about you that just thinking without exterior evidence, without exterior education or whatever, just sitting back and thinking about it and coming up with these ideas, why not only should anybody else care, why should you care about the things you came up with? Why should you even suspect there's a chance this is true? And I don't mean like a tiny chance. I mean enough of a chance to believe it and call yourself a theist.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't. I'm not a theist exactly. I mostly myself a theist because I need to take more theist scholars.
I'm fine with saying that you're a theist if you're saying you believe in the supernatural. It is a little bit of an expansion of the definition. If you don't believe in a specific God, fine. We're not just wanting to talk to. If a person calls in and they want to talk about a supernatural claim, but they don't believe in a specific God, I'm fine enough categorizing atheist and theist that way.
Right.
People with the supernatural on the theist end and not supernatural on the atheist end. If you were calling in to defend astrology, I would similarly treat you like a theist as far as my line of questioning went. So again, I'm not worried about the label. I'm not worried about where you fall on that spectrum. I'm worried about why should, honestly, Dell, I'm more worried about why you should care about this thing you thought about. But the way this show works is, why should we? Why should we? We don't believe in God. We don't believe in the supernatural. What is a good piece of evidence that you're correct?
This when I was this color.
I can't understand you at all now. Your audio has gotten real bad.
I'm sorry. I said this is part of the reason why I used the word hypothesis when I was talking to the screen caller, was because I'm working on getting the means to be able to test these things. But
how would you test them?
How would I test them?
Yeah. How would you test it?
Well, by demonstrating a phenomenon that would be analogous to like neural networks that distribute information, and testing it whether or not you can demonstrate that a system is conscious or not.
Right. How would you do the test? Not what would the test ideally show. How would you actually do the test to demonstrate that? So specific to your claim of enough people believing could create a conscious organism that is apparently not a natural organism, or at least not a biological organism, that is then capable of replicating and evolving. How would you test that?
I'm not entirely sure yet. Like I said, I'm still working on figuring the whole thing out.
Let me ask you something. How about this? Hypothetically speaking, let's say you formulated a test, and the test came out negative. It showed that it wasn't true. How would that make you? How would your views on it change after that, or how would that affect your opinion or feelings or beliefs about it?
Well, my beliefs aren't necessarily that it is or isn't. My beliefs are more of, I believe it is possible, and I want to be able to demonstrate that it is possible, and figure out if it is happening to, like, okay, so if it showed that it wasn't happening, then I would
You'd look for another way to prove it, or?
No, not another way to prove it. My question is, whether or not it's happening, if it's possible to, like, build one, should you build one? Or, like, and if you should, how? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think
sure.
we're gonna move on here in a moment, but I think the couple things I want to leave you with is withhold belief or even living like you believe something until there is a good reason to believe it. But also, when it comes to the scientific process, most hypotheses that you're going to be put to the test are a series of observations that you believe are connected to each other. So you have the observed like final human form, and as you're looking through the fossil record, you're seeing there are simpler humanoid forms. You make those observations, and then you go to prove that this is a related concept. Or like the observations Darwin was making with species that had these slight variations between. There's not a lot of hypotheses that are like, hey, this fact is true, so invisible fairies that might be eating the dust out of my shoes every night, I'd like to prove that exists. And I'm not trying to say what you're thinking is comparable to that. I'm just going with the obviously absurd example so the metaphor is easier to grasp. I like, on the one hand, I don't want to discourage a person from doing what it sounds like they're saying they want to go and do some science. Go do some science. But I genuinely, from what it sounds like you have this sort of grand idea of this would make a cool fiction novel, but you become so attached to it because it's the thing you came up with. And so there's almost like an emotional attachment to it that now you, and we all want to be exceptional. We all want to be the person that a comic book or a hero story is about. But it sounds to me like you are reaching for something for some level of self-validation. And I think, I worry from what you've shown me so far that you are proposing something that you're going to invest a ton of time and sounds like money into as well, that you do not sound like you have a foundational reason to do, and you're going to waste your own time and resources. But if that's what it takes for you to actually believe or not believe in it, I guess I do wish you the best of luck. But if those tests come through and you can prove the whole thing, call back, because if you have the proof, obviously that's what we're looking for.
All right. I don't think you fully understood what I was saying, or
I think there was definitely pieces of it that either I didn't understand or I was incapable of making sense of it. That's entirely possible. But
also, the phone was breaking out a little bit too. And one more thing I want to make note of: there's no reason to be nervous around us. We're just a couple of assholes, and
that's
all
true.
Reality, we're exactly the same as everybody else who just sit behind a desk with a microphone in front of our face. That's about it.
I don't even have pants on. But basically, I will be very interested in the conversation when you have a list of good reasons for me to believe or even suspect that what you believe is true. All right, Dell?
Okay.
Thank you for calling.
Yeah. All right.
Bye. Hey, thanks for checking out this clip for The Line. While you're here, hit that like button, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and then share this with that bitter uncle of yours who loves talking about the good old days.